Yeah, I think we can start with the introduction and then get to the topic. And yeah, feel free to have your questions come in because we want to make sure the session is very interactive and not just two people talking on stage. That's not what we want. So we want the engagement from the audience. Yeah, so in terms of introduction, yeah, my name is Abhinav Joshi, Director for Product Marketing at Red Hat. I have over 20 years of experience. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a painter. But then I got into chemical engineering. I worked there for a year, and then I decided to move to IT. So been in IT into all kinds of roles like solution architect, consulting, product management, product marketing. I've not been in a dedicated sales enablement role.
Yet.
So I'll put that yet. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and I'm not based out of Austin. I'm based out of the Raleigh area in North Carolina. All right, over to you, Katie.
Awesome. My name is Katie Pariseau. I am from here in Austin. I have worked at AMD and did my first job out of college at Dell, which I think almost everyone that works in Austin has spent some time at Dell. I think it's a great learning and proving ground. And then I have switched over to startups pretty much the last 8 or 9 years. And taken all of the structure and everything I learned at large-scaled companies and being able to leverage that in the startup environment and do all the same stuff I was doing before, except for also having personal relationships with the reps and seeing their growth. And my favorite metric and stat is when reps that I either onboarded or they were a first-time manager are now co-founders of companies and heads of sales at other places. So it's really come very full circle for me. But I started in marketing and advertising, and all the themes apply, and that kind of ties into our first question.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and there we go. In terms of the first question that we have up there. So Katie, so how are the two functions defined in your company? And even you can talk about the previous places as well, and how marketing, where does one stop, where does the second start?
Yeah, so for me, enablement is the last 3 feet of marketing. It is being connected to your audience and understanding what their day-to-day looks like and the tools and the talk tracks and the risk and the concerns and the levers that you can pull there in terms of if you understand how someone gets paid, you can build your programs to make a lot of sense for them. If something new is coming out from product marketing or from anywhere, and they're like, oh, we're gonna figure out comp later. That's a hard no for me. I will train them once they know how they're getting paid, because that's my first slide. What does it mean for you? How are you getting paid, or how is this helping you do your job? Or if it's for CS, how is this driving value for your customers? So if we haven't figured that out yet, you're not ready for anyone to know anything about it, honestly. So to me, that's what enablement is. And then product marketing is my partner in crime, just like my sales leader and just like my CS leader, and sometimes even my CEO. But they are my subject matter expert. They are the source of all the things that myself or my team is building. They give us the building blocks to be able to connect those dots and do that last 3 feet of marketing.
Cool.
What about you? How do you see the two?
Yeah, same way. Partners in crime, and it's like a 3-legged stool in terms of the marketing, sales enablement, and also sales. All 3 have to be in sync to make sure that we have the common objectives and are marching towards the same orders. In our company, how we have it is, so my company is like a large company, 22,000 employees. So we used to have a lot of different teams, but we're consolidating. I think at one point in time, we had about 7 or 8 sales enablement teams, believe it or not. Now we're down to 2, and there's further consolidation going on. So the bottom line is, so the PMMs at my company, so they sit in the BUs, the product groups, so along with the product management, right? And then we have a dedicated function that's called sales enablement. So we kind of work very collaboratively with them, and they're also part of a product org. And then we have the champions in the field, or the leadership that we collaborate with. So that way, there is synergy between product marketing, because we are closer to the product, and also understand the customers and have good relationship with the sales enablement as well as the sellers.
I like it. So I think if we go to the next question, really where the rubber hits the road sometimes is there's gray area between where your job ends and my job begins. How do you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so at my company and even the previous roles I've been at, right, so the key in terms of the role of a PMN, so that's more of positioning, messaging, competitive as well, be able to do content, be able to talk to the industry analysts, drive the marketing launches, like help the sales teams do the ABCs, like briefing centers. And in terms of the enablement, that's where we partner very closely with the sales enablement team. Like we provide them the raw content. Like we call it raw because like from our perspective, the stuff is good, but we look at the expertise of the sales enablement team to kind of professionalize it even more, make it more snackable, because the sales teams don't have a lot of attention span and they want the modular content that, okay, give me quick hits. So don't ask me to go watch a 1 hour session or a webinar because I don't have that much time. I just have 10 minutes between my, like, before the next call with a customer.
Right.
So that's where we kind of rely on the expertise of the sales enablement team to take the raw stuff we have and professionalize it, make it consumable by the sales team, and also be able to drive the metrics on it, like how successful the enablement has been, because we don't want it to be a one-way conversation where we just give them stuff and then we don't know what's happening. Yeah, and that, I mean, happens as well. It's not a perfect world. I'm sure at all your companies, that's the same way. But that's what we strive for, that, and also be able to frequently make the updates as well, because it's a very competitive environment. The content and enablement you build out, it gets stale very quick. So you have to be working in more of an agile environment to be able to make sure your sales reps and the SAs in the field have the latest and greatest content.
Yes, 100%.
So how about you?
Yeah, I like that because, you know, a lot of people think it's linear, like you said, like it's a line. You brain dump everything to me and then I just take it from there, but really it's a cycle. Not just for that maintenance piece, because being in tech, everything is evolving really quickly, so you have to make sure that you're giving the right information to the right people at the right time consistently, and that there is that trust that you're building. But also, I might take what you gave me as raw components, and to get it across to the team, this really complex idea or new idea, I might come up with a visual analogy to like set the tone for that. Well, I want to come back to you and make sure that that seems accurate technically too, right? And then depending on the size of my company and how involved legal is in that whole process, I might also need to work with you to back up anything, whether it's a visual analogy to a new claim. For instance, I have had it where, you know, product marketing has armed me with all of these stats of what the product should be able to do. And then when I look at those stats, I was like, these mean nothing to me. And if I'm trying to make them mean something to the salesperson or to the customer success rep to be able to drive value or the promise of future value, that's a problem. So a lot of times I'd come back to product marketing and say, you gave me this, what does this mean to you? And in a conversation, in one sentence, you put a pretty bow on it, and then I changed the title of the slide, and you're like, that is so deep. And I'm like, these are your words. I didn't know what that said, but now that you've put that framing on it, and so we amplify each other, because you're so close to it, you don't even necessarily always see those connections. Yeah. So that's part of the value, and then the other part of the value is really with those relationships with the direct reps themselves, right? So I came from advertising and then marketing, so I like to do focus groups with almost everything that I put out in the field, ideally before it goes out in the field. So the first time is really already been kind of soft launched internally in a safe place where they can be like, this doesn't make any sense, Katie. And I can say, that is good feedback. Tell me why. What's missing? If this is the goal of this new talk track, if this is the goal of this new product that you are being asked to pitch on every single call you have, what's missing? What is not connecting? How can I make this better? I want to know that now. And so I tell them, and I have to build that trust, and I have to answer their questions and be there for them to be able to ask those questions, right? But I tell them their success is literally my success. That is what is being measured. I get measured based on how well we do. When they fall, I fall. So tell me how you honestly feel about this thing, good, bad, or ugly, because I'm going to spend the same amount of time doing it. I'd rather do it well and give you what you actually need. And that is very, very helpful. And with the other, like I said, I'm the last 3 feet. He's taking it 97 feet. I just have to take it the last 3 feet. So and a lot of times if you don't have sales enablement, product marketing is being asked to do sales enablement without any of the tools or experience or any of the stuff that we have, right? And so you're doing a good job, but when you have both really strong functions and they're working together in that cycle, that's when something really exceptional happens, not just for you, because your team is armed to be successful, right? And for your company, but also for every single person that you're touching, you're changing, in some cases, the trajectory of their careers and for the company's career. So it's really, really important that we work together.
Yeah, and also something I want to add there is, it's a continuous, like a collaborative process, right? Because a lot of the things you do, right? You may be doing the training for the sales teams or recording something and need the subject matter experts. So that's where the PMMs come into play, right? Be the subject matter expert to drive the delivery, or be the expert to speak. So yeah, speaking of that, that leads us to the next question. So what best practices have worked for you in terms of driving collaboration with the product marketing teams?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a naturally collaborative person, and so I go in to pretty much any interaction that I have talking about what are the shared goals that we have, like what is keeping you up at night, and then how I can help you in my role achieve those things. So with product marketing, that's usually a launch or a product attach rate being lower than we want it to be, or it's something in that vein, right? Or we're doing a rebranding thing, and how does this impact all these other things that we've already built? And so the more that when I'm working with my product marketing counterpart, we can partner and divide and conquer in really clear terms those things, and make sure that it's like, well, if those are the things that are keeping you up at night, those also probably ladder really cleanly to our OKRs. So we're checking a lot of boxes here, right? And then being able to, from there, think about, if that's what we want to do, great, what are the outcomes that we're actually trying to achieve? And how do I simplify this as much as possible for the feet on the street that actually have to do this? So for instance, if we were launching a brand new product and they have to change their discovery, and they have to change their demo, and they have to change their follow-up and their proposal and all these things, what can I work with sales leadership to do so it's already done? So I don't have to do it like we roll stuff out and it's not done, and then it's like, I did it and I have a deal, but like none of this stuff is updated, right? Because then you just hit the next barrier. Let's think about their whole experience. What things can we do for them proactively and have ready to go at launch? And then how do I simplify it as much as possible to say, you're already doing this in your discovery. This is one more question. Can everyone say, how does social fit into your day-to-day? That seems pretty simple, right? It's not technical, it's not anything. If super simple decision tree. If they say, oh, it's becoming bigger and bigger, or it's actually a pretty big part, or whatever, great, we have a new product that I'm really excited to talk to you about. But sorry, I did the thing you told me not to do. That's a whole other meeting, so let's table that and come back to it. And now from the rep's perspective, they have pipeline opportunity because they know that that thing will increase their ARR by 30% if they get that attach rate. And they're already like, yep, it's worth the risk. It was a really low barrier to entry, right, to get interest. And now I can go back to my product marketing counterpart and say, you know how we trained everybody? 90% of those reps that from last week asked that one new discovery question, and we got 30 meetings set up just about this for the following week. So you don't have to wait until the whole thing is launched to see, do we have enough opportunities and all of that stuff. You have these little mini check-ins, and we've talked about that up front, so we can be able to pivot if we need to at every step, a week, 2 weeks, a month in, and not wait for your entire sales cycle of 6 months to find out we failed and our attach rate's only 10%, right? So we can work together with the teams to make sure that we, like you said, bite-sized, snackable, make it easy for them to adopt, just like we make the messages easy for them to understand and be where they need it to be to help them remember to do it, right?
Yep.
What about you?
Yeah, sure. Collaboration is part and parcel of the role in my company, right? So we sell free open source software. So that's where collaboration is kind of part of the company. But we have a lot of collaboration, more than we need. Yeah, but I would say is, so we treat, or we think of the sales enablement as the extended members of our team, right? So we invite them to our team meetings and vice versa as well, right? Because so that way they feel part of the team and they know what's going on our side, and a representative from my team is part of their team as well, like the team meetings. Yeah, and then if there is a success, we celebrate the success together. If there is kind of feedback, we bring in the sales enablement as well into the mix, because a lot of times the sales rep may know us and they may not know the person on the enablement side. So that kind of like helps build the trust as well, that okay, PMMs are looking out for the sales enablement teams as well. So that way we're kind of seen as on the same team,
Yes.
and not like different teams.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's how we collaborate, and then we constantly challenge each other. Like you said in one of your responses, that this thing is not making sense.
Yeah.
So we do that as well. We kind of go back and forth with each other, like in a sporty manner, not like butting heads.
Right.
But yeah, that works out well.
Yeah, no, and that's really important for any role, honestly, is to be able to have that vulnerability to say, I'm sorry, can we go back a second? Because can you go deeper on that? It's not clicking for me. And I want to make sure if I'm the way that the rest of the team understands something and I don't understand it fully, I can't give it the energy and the attention and answer the questions, because a lot of the questions I have are the same questions they're going to have, right? And so to have that trust is really, really important for the whole process. And then same thing, sometimes I'm a little too creative with my visual analogies and stuff, and so to have them empowered as product marketers and the experts to go, I don't understand how this visual analogy ties to this new product. Can we maybe, do you have other options, or do you want to walk me through it? Because it's not connecting, and I need to know that, because if you as the expert don't think it's right, people who are not the expert are going to be even more confused, right? So you have to have that ability to challenge and question in a safe place, so that, because the whole point is to make it better for everybody.
Yeah, and that leads to our next question.
Yes. So what challenges have you seen in doing this? Because I'm sure it's all roses, but sometimes even roses have thorns.
What challenges are you talking about? We have no challenges. No, I'm just kidding there. Yeah, the type of challenges that we see is there may be a lot of different priorities. And this happens if the company is kind of mid-size or even large and you have multiple products, right? Each of the product group is going to have their request. So the sales enablement team is bombarded with the requests from all kinds of directions. And then the sales team start to do their stuff as well. Like at my previous company, that was the case, right? Where the sales team decided to take enablement in their own hands. So yeah, there were like multiple sales enablement teams. And then the thing is, a lot of times I see the priorities are not aligned, where PMMs have a priority, enablement team may have an interpretation of the priorities, and then the sales teams like have something else as well going on. So you see like a lot of duplication of effort, both in terms of the enablement, the content, and that's where the sales team get confused that, okay, I need to find the answer on this topic. So then should I go here, or there? And I don't have the time to go through each of the stuff and be able to make sense. So that kind of becomes a challenge as well.
Yeah,
and the prioritization.
Yes, the prioritization for sure, but also if your audience is confused and they start asking everybody, they could get different answers because how I answer their question could be different than how
Yeah.
you answer their question. They can use you against each other, like a kid going to mom and dad and both asking them the same question and getting a yes from one place and a no from the other. But then I've also seen reps just like shotgun in Slack. They're like, I have a question, they just write it out and then copy and paste it to like everyone in product marketing, everyone in enablement, their manager, and then they just take the answer they like the best. And so that doesn't really work either. So being able to have, and those challenges I face as well. This is not a perfect science, right? But we do a lot around communication, and I'm in the Ask Product channel in Slack. And I'm usually the first one that answers with a HighSpot link to like exactly, that's already answered, that's in the FAQ. And you already have the answer, you don't have to wait for it, this is great, right? So if you have a content management system, like that's a great way of reinforcing it, and it's the same answer. Because their manager could do that same search, you could do that same search, it's the thing that's already approved instead of answering things one off, which is great. And then when people ask new questions that we haven't captured yet, then I have a different emoji for that, and I'm like, we're working on it. Like, this is a great question. Now I'm gonna go work with my product marketing expert, or go work with your sales manager to get to the right answer depending on what the question is, right? So the challenges still exist and they're still the same. I think just how we're kind of dealing with them is still trying to just communicate, like this is the one channel you go to ask this question to try to get rid of the shotgunning. We both could see it at the same time and we both know what the answer is. We either have it answered already, here you go, or we don't actually have that answer. Gold star for you for asking us something we don't know the answer to, we will get back to you, and then guess what? It's a HighSpot link, because now it's answered for everybody at their fingertips for next time, right? Because it's a gift when someone tells you something or asks you something that you don't know. Think about how much you think about these products and how the value that they bring and all of that. And then when someone asks you something you haven't thought of yet, like that is very much a gift. And so the best product marketing team members that I've worked with, they see it as a gift and don't get frustrated like, oh, I should have. No, this is, now you know for next time, right? Like we're all learning and we're all getting stronger because of that, right? It kind of goes back to that challenging piece.
Yeah, and I want to add something that I just remembered. What I've also seen is, if the enablement team is going out to get the feedback from the sales teams, and if they're reaching out to the technical audience, right? So in that case, if they don't involve the PMMs, right, the feedback that kind of comes back, because they may have an interpretation of the feedback, right, which may not be the same as ours. So what we recommend the enablement teams is to bring along a PMM as well, like as you are talking, especially to more technical people, because that way we're able to filter through all the noise and make sure that we are like hitting on the right feedback and act on it.
I love that, and I've also had it. One of the things that we tell reps to kind of address the risk factor a little bit is if you get on a call and someone is way more technical than you feel comfortable having that conversation with, explain, wow, you were really impressively knowledgeable about this, way more so than myself. I would love to bring on my expert next time to answer these questions more fully for you. But tell me more about the question you just asked. Why is that important to your business? We arm them with like 2 or 3 questions to go deeper on. All of our calls are recorded, and then we bring that to product marketing, so when they're ready for that call, they're ready to go to answer those questions and make it as valuable as possible, not only for that prospect or customer, but also so that we're actually arming you to be able to come onto the call and be and like shine, right? Instead of coming in because we got into trouble on a call and we're like, oh, that's much deeper than I planned to go today. Let's set up something else, and just like stop asking questions. And then they go to you and they're like, hey, will you join our call? It's with a really big op. They want to know more about our Salesforce connector. And you're like, cool, what about it? And they're like, I don't know, I just shut down as soon as they started asking questions about it, right? So like it helps you as the rep, it helps the prospect or the customer, and it helps the product marketer really be able to come in as the subject matter expert, ready to go with exactly what matters to them.
Yeah. Cool, so now moving on to the next question here. What does the ideal state look like?
So for this one, I made a slide. It's really simple, and it kind of is, you can just go ahead and click all the things. But basically, kind of like in Liz's scenario of what does your maturity look like as a sales enablement team, this is kind of like what is the maturity of your relationship with product marketing look like. So it's really simple. So a lot of times it's broken. That's when you're in the ad hoc side, especially you both could be an ad hoc, or just one of you could be a new group and you're very much ad hoc. It's where things are siloed. It's really unclear of who's doing what, and you're kind of stepping all over each other, or where people are asking you both and getting different answers, and it can be really inconsistent. And so for you, for your product marketing counterparts, and for your stakeholders, it's really, really frustrating, right? And then you kind of evolve from there into a working relationship, so you have solid communication, you're meeting regularly, you have more clear roles and responsibilities, and you're starting to align to each other's processes and getting that consistency for your audience, which is awesome. But to take it to the next level, you really need to have a partnership. You're strategizing together. This launch is coming up. You've been living in this product world. Let's talk about, we have the process of all the things we want to do. How do we step it up? How do we take it to the next level? Because this is a tier 1 launch. This is going to be revolutionizing for our company. This is going to be really big, which means it's going to change all those things. How do we make this special and fun and interesting, but also keep all of those outcomes in mind so that we stay in lockstep? And then really, like I said, orchestrated, really how do we amplify each other throughout the whole process? And that's the smoothest experience for everyone. And honestly, depending on the thing and how important it is, you can go back and forth on this continuum. It's not like, oh, once you're optimized for one thing, you're optimized for everything. You can be optimized on a huge tier 1 launch, and like a smaller launch that just happened, you didn't update anything because you missed it because you were so busy on the other thing, and you could be on the other end of the spectrum. So it's kind of like when you're evaluating your reps, sometimes they're an expert at something, and then that same person who's a top seller who's an expert at this really hard thing is a novice at this brand new tool that you just rolled out, whereas someone who had experience with it for another company but hasn't sold the dang thing is an expert on it, right? So we kind of go back and forth, and that's okay.
Cool. Yeah, so all this makes sense to me.
You've been enabled.
Yeah, I've been enabled. Yeah, one thing I'll add in here is like add the sales team as well in there, like a representative, say from each of the geos, because especially if you are selling global,
yes,
and your company has been more in the the SLG motions, like sales-led growth. So that's where I would say that that you need to have a sales counterpart as well.
Yeah, and this expands well with that, right? And the larger that ecosystem is, the more work up front for communication and orchestration and sharing and breaking down those silos, it just becomes that much more important. So where would you say you are currently?
Yeah, sure. So we can use this as a reference here, because that will help us, right? Since we have a framework here that like a lot of the folks feel it's kind of compelling. So yeah, what I would say is we are right now in the middle there, working, and it's not ideal because multiple things are changing, right? Like as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we have multiple teams, and we are kind of breaking the boundaries, consolidating the enablement teams. Same way, consolidation of the product groups is happening as well, and we've been doing the same kind of stuff for a few years. So now I trying to venture out into some of the new areas, modularize a lot of the enablement, make it offline, like on-demand access, as compared to doing a lot of live sessions, because the sales teams can only go to so many internal calls. They're supposed to be spending more time with the customers. So that's where modularizing the content, making it easy, and also going at the persona level in terms of the sales teams. That okay, if you are a sales rep or if you are an MDR, like the inside sales, this is your training. If you are a technical seller, this is your training. If you are post-sales, this is your training. And if you are into digital marketing or even the demand generation, so this is your training. So that way, we make sure that there's kind of synergy between the enablement team, us, as well as the sales teams on all these different groups, and like how we keep them like up to date or the content and all the training fresh becomes a challenge as well, because if you start to introduce like a lot of layers and segments, so and you create all the great stuff, somebody has to be responsible to keep that up to date. So you have to pick your battles, and otherwise like you could run into a lot of issues where the content gets old and competitors will kind of catch up in a few months. So then you have to start the process of keeping the stuff fresh.
Yep, 100%.
So how about you?
I would say that I'm in working as well. I have a newer product marketing counterpart. And so I think there are things that I would even say we slide into broken because they're still kind of building brand new things, so we don't have processes yet. We don't have defined roles and responsibilities just yet. We're still very much figuring it out, but I am a partner in that process, and we are figuring it out together. So I'd say most of it fits into working. And then ideally, we'll get to optimized. It's my favorite place, but anytime there's change, like massive change with team members or sales leadership, or how we're doing goals and how much visibility, like it can make you shift even if everything else stays the same. But the faster you get back to where you want to be is the goal. Okay, last question.
Yeah, so my last question is, like, how do you measure the success here of the collaboration between both product marketing and sales enablement?
So it varies. I'm sure that's the answer you were hoping for. So it really depends on what it is. So if it is onboarding, then I'm going to be tracking everything from how fast did people ramp to be able to sell the product we trained them on, and are they armed, and then also their feedback from the surveys and all that good stuff to see where we can kind of make things better. If it is around like a product launch, then we would have worked together to figure out outcome-wise what we're going to track that whole way through, so that we know when we need to spend effort tweaking things if it's not on the right trajectory before we get to falling short of where we want to be. So it varies based on what it is that we're working on together, but at the end of the day, my product marketing counterparts have always been very data-driven and outcome-focused. And so it makes it a lot easier to do the strategy that I want to do anyway, and not just do stuff to do stuff and check a box and say that we did it. Oh no, we made a cheat sheet. I want it to mean something, because again, I have to maintain it, and I have to use your resources to update it. So it varies, and it depends on what it is we're trying to achieve. What about you?
Yeah, so in my case, right, so it gets down to the win rate in terms of customers and like how fast the sales teams are able to close the deals.
Yeah.
And if they're able to attribute that back to enablement and all the assets, the messaging and the positioning. And the way we try to do it is through sales plays, right? The leadership on the sales type has been kind of forcing that, as well as be able to attribute the wins or even the losses to sales plays. So that way we know that this quarter we were able to influence like these many deals, and in these many deals it did not work out. So what was the problem? So being able to get down to the bottom of that, that's like a way for us to track success, because if you're not able to show the attribution, we can do enablement like throughout the year.
Yep.
So then the company could be okay without the enablement as well. So you have to be able to show the metrics for both, because we are in this together, the sales teams, sales enablement, as well as the PMM. So being able to attribute success back to what we do for the sales team is very important.
100%. And you have to have that consistency, or you can't tell what variable changed that changed the outcome. So that makes total sense. Awesome. Well, that's what we had planned for you guys. Do we have some Q&A that we could jump into, or did we proactively answer every question you have about this very complicated topic?
So are we using Slido here?
Yes.
We are. All right.
Is there a mic, or does it have to be in Slido? Oh.
Thank you. In one of the earlier sessions, a gentleman showed the effectiveness, the receptiveness from the sales team, depending on who delivered it. Product marketing, sales enablement, other sellers. Do you ever use other sellers to extend your...
All the time. I want to have a seller in every session that I have, and that's usually the person I previewed it with, and I give them that up front. Like, you get to put your fingerprints on this, and I'm going to champion you, and you're going to be seen as a leader. And I always go to sales leadership and say, we're launching this product, who would be good for that, right? And if they give me the same person they've given me the last 2 or 3 times, I say, I need another voice. Like, it's great that Carrie is awesome at all this stuff. I need someone else. Give me someone new with a lot of potential. That would be this would be a great stretch opportunity for them. What about you? Do you use sales people?
Same thing. And what we also try to do is get a person from each of the geo, because if you're selling global, right, that's where there are a lot of nuances across the different countries and the regions. So no two feedback is same, and you kind of start to see the patterns there. The feedback you get from here is not the same as like EMEA or like Asia Pacific.
Yeah, and so if you're going to do global, I also recommend that you start with your most honorary or outspoken region first, because that way when you go to your more conservative, more proper regions, you ask the open-ended question and they don't give you a lot, you can say, well, here are some things we have been hearing. Do you agree? Because we're already thinking about making these changes, so if that's not going to work for you, tell me. And then it just kind of opens the door. So for me, that was always Australia. The Australians would always tell you exactly how it was.
Yeah.
Do we have
questions?
Oh.
What if you don't have product marketing?
So the question is, what if you don't have product marketing? Do you want to take a stab at that? Because
how are you going to answer that?
Then you become product marketing, right? Or
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the answer. So I didn't have product marketing for 10 months. And so a lot of the things that product marketing would typically do kind of fell on my plate. And so I had to prioritize that with the other things that were going on and delay some of the enablement foundational things that I would have liked to have been doing to support. We were launching big partnerships, which meant a lot of effort. You know how much goes into like a partnership launch. So I had to wear a few hats, but I just made it really clear what the expectations were, and that this is very much a product marketing role. I am not a product marketer. I've done a lot of marketing things, but not product marketing. So you have a non-expert in this role, so give me some grace. I'm jumping in here because it's the bigger need for the company. But as soon as we hire this person, I will very gladly give them all the keys to all the things that I made and go right back to my spot. And I'm happy to go deeper with you on that, but that was my take.
The other option is to hire a contractor or like a short-term consultant, because there are the independent consultants as well that specialize in product marketing. So they can be like a short-term, fill the gap, and then you should be able to show the value that this, I hired a person for short-term and they were able to fill these gaps. So that makes up the case for that we need PMMs.
Yeah, we didn't have the budget for that, so I just used my network and talked to some of my old PMMs and took them out for drinks and were like, hey, I'm trying to do this. And like, oh, here's a framework for that. I'm like, yes. What are the biggest challenges and ahas that you learned the hard way that you can just tell me so I don't have to learn it the hard way this time, right? So I just did my enablement thing on them and got some really good tips, and I went into meetings and I'm like, are you sure you haven't done product marketing? I'm not, nope. This is not my forte. I stole from really brilliant people, and that's kind of what enablement is too. I work with the sales reps, and I'm like, here's this, and they're like, oh, let me read this back to you, and then they tell it to you in this like whole other amazing way, and you're like, yep, that's now the talk track right there, right? So like you distilled it for me, I distill it for them, and they still a lot of times will do another translation. That's why I want to have that touch before it goes out to everybody, so it's already at least partially translated, or ideally all the way translated, and then you can really take it to a whole nother level quickly instead of spending all your time and effort just trying to translate into something that makes sense to you and is worth the risk to bring up on a customer call.
Other questions from anybody?
You mentioned earlier about tiers of launches, and I've often found with product marketing that product marketers are so excited about even the smallest feature launch, and sometimes it's hard to set enablement expectations about what you're going to provide based on the launch. So how do you, maybe this is for Katie, how do you package up what enablement offerings you're going to provide based on the launch, and then how do you receive that on your side so that you don't end up feuding over, of course, we're not going to spend hours talking about small feature launch.
That is a great question. So the question is, we talked about tiering of launches previously, and so how do I, as the enablement professional, frame that and bring that to product marketing so we can deliver it at the level it should be for the team based on the impact to the company and the amount of lift that it takes for the reps that we're asking them to do. And then you'll answer what that means from your side and how you would take it, I guess.
Yeah, sure. In my case, right, what we do is, so we have these gold, silver, and bronze tiers, right? And they have been built in collaboration with the enablement team. So that way we're able to tier the launches and be able to say that, okay, if it's a gold launch, these are the things we'll do. And in terms of the enablement, so these are the things that will happen.
Yep.
Right. So at the beginning, so we have the mutual understanding that if somebody says it's going to be a bronze launch, so the PMMs know what they will get from the enablement team.
Yep. So, and from my side, my PMMs and product managers give me line of sight to what is coming, right, to the product roadmap. And so we're deciding that up front when they're explaining what everything is. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a bronze launch. And the product marketer has that opportunity up front to say, actually, I think it's a silver and here's why, right? And sometimes I've done hybrids in between. I have 3 tiers, but sometimes because of the nature of whatever it is, we might steal from another tier just for that specific thing, but we note that that is very much a one-off and that 95% of them stick to just one tier. And so, for instance, an example of me deviating from the tiers was when we were launching a brand new product that there was no competitor for. And we really needed to spend a little bit more training time on like what this was because they were going to be educating the market on it. And even though it was a smaller feature and it fit only in one of the packages, so it didn't, like, to be a gold, it kind of usually has to go across the board and have lots of lift and all the things. It was a smaller thing, but it had the potential to increase our win rates and to show us as a thought leader. So I kind of stole one thing from the gold and 2 things from the silver and had a little bit more of a focus on it than I would normally. So just, does that answer your question? Awesome.
All right, cool. Yeah, that was great talking with you. And I hope you all liked the session as well and learned something new, at least a couple of things, if not more. So, yeah, glad to be doing this.
It was a pleasure to do this. Thank you for the time. Thank you for coming into a room full of sales enablement as the only PMM and representing how we work together. So that's huge. And then we put our LinkedIn here. You can find us on LinkedIn. Would love to connect and answer any other questions or just grow our networks and have a whole new set of awesome people to bounce ideas off of and vice versa. Awesome.
Cool,
thank you so much.